Follow once again. I'm a big wig. Yeah. I need the wrong things.
Hello and welcome to BIGWIG. BIGWIG is a series that examines the life of lawyers who are not into litigation. Lawyers that have made a name for themselves in the niche area of the law that they have excelled in.
My vision for the Nigerian legal profession really is for our lawyers to be able to stand up anywhere in the world and be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the best lawyers in the world internationally. And to be able to do that, it means looking back within our own legal sector here, the profession here, the Nigerian law school here. What is being offered? Are we teaching our lawyers at the law school the things of yesterday, or are we preparing them for the future?
My daily moves, nothing but magic. I'm a lawyer.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the BIGWIG. Today, our BIGWIG is perhaps one of the most important names in the energy and project finance matters in Nigeria. She is the managing partner of Dentons ACAS-Law. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Felicia Kemi Segun.
And I'm doing great things for this game.
Tell us where you were born and where you grew up, and your early education to university, before we start talking law.
Okay, thank you very much. I was born in London and spent the first 6.5 years of my life there. So that means that I did start school there and maybe just about 2.5 years of school there. Coming back to Nigeria, I attended Estate Nursery and Primary School, so a little school in Ilupeju. I don't think it's there anymore, but it was great fun. It was great fun. And then I went to Holy Child College, Lagos. I guess everybody knows Holy Child College. Spent 5 years there. Then my A-levels at Federal Government Girls College, Shagamu. So I was in the boarding house, and that was something else. But I have made lifelong friends from those schools, and then I went to the University of Ife. And at the University of Ife, that's what it was called through my stay. I read history.
Law wasn't your first degree?
No, it wasn't. Even though it was what I wanted to do first, but I didn't get into law then. So I went through the history degree, then did my youth corps in Benin, and then went back to the University of Lagos to read law.
That's my school.
Okay.
I read my law in Lagos as well.
Yeah. So that was it in terms of my education.
Did you find it was it advantageous just having a liberal degree first before studying law? Because sometimes people argue that it's better to have a first degree in some other course before going for law. That way you're really ready. Was it an advantage?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was for me. Because when I was reading law, I found that I spent my time, reading practically. And I found it quite enjoyable. I think there was a bit more maturity in me than when I was doing my first degree. So my first degree, going into the University of Ife, there was a lot of freedom. So, there were the parties and things every weekend from Friday to Sunday. It was fun. And of course, but I was a good student because I was going for my lectures. And going to Unilag, the parties were, few and far between. I guess because as a second degree student, and there were others in my class, most of the parties, the much younger people. But of course, there was the city of Lagos. But I would say that I found it advantageous having done a first degree and then going back to read law.
Was law always what you wanted to study?
Yes.
And if so, why? Was it something that was in your family? Was it traditional in your family, or somebody that you were looking up to?
Okay, so I made the decision to become a lawyer very early. I was 11, I was in Form 2, and I thought, I'm going to read law. I used to watch this program called Petricelli, and people, when I say that to people, they'd say to me, oh, you shouldn't tell people that, it will give them an idea of how old you are. So I used to watch, Petricelli, American courtroom drama.
Okay.
Yeah, and some other legal programs, and it was really the drama, courtroom drama, that attracted me to it. And I thought, that's what I wanted to do. I want to be a lawyer, and that I was thinking, I want to go to court, and display.
Have fun doing it.
Yes.
Which is ironic because you've ended up not being in litigation.
That is true.
So what happened?
Okay, so what happened? So going into practice, I did start off, for a few years going to court, but it's absolutely nothing like what you see on TV.
Sorry, what chambers were you?
Okay, so the first 6 months I went to a place called Burke&Co. That was on Broad Street, and no, it wasn't even up to 6 months. I think it was about 3-4 months. And then I moved to Adequate and Caxton Martins.
Okay.
As it was then called.
Yes.
Yeah, so while I was at Adequate, well, I'm still there, starting with Burke&Co. and then Adequate and Caxton Martins, I was going to court, and at the same time also doing, commercial practice solicitor's work. But going to court, I found that it wasn't as glamorous as it was on TV. And I remember, my very first contentious application, arguing it, speaking, because, I prepared, I was ready for it. And, I'm speaking, and then the judge says, young lady, please slow down.
I have to take.
Exactly.
I have to take notes.
I'm taking notes. So I think that sort of knocked it for me initially. So I had to speak really slowly, but it was still interesting doing that. But I think what did it for me really were the adjournments. Go to court, and your matters are just adjourned. And I remember one day in particular, I had this matter at the Ikeja High Court. The judge came in, listened to a few matters, and then he said, he needed to go and do something. So he got up and left, maybe for about 2-3 hours. It was that long. And, everybody was waiting. And then when he got back, he listened to a couple of matters, and then it was my turn for my case. And he said, I'm not disposed to hearing the case today. And I'm thinking, sit up all night preparing for this. The other side didn't ask for an adjournment. It's just the judge who's decided to adjourn this matter again. And I just felt that time was going by, and it was a particularly painful feeling. And I felt that if you really want to succeed in litigation, your passion needs to be able to carry you through those issues. So you need to be able to take the adjournments as part of the profession. And it was difficult for me to accept that. And I thought, this path isn't for me. And then with a commercial practice, I guess, very lucky to be working in a firm where there was both the solicitor's practice as well as litigation. So when I could make the choice, I did make the choice.
I find that somehow we have lost to commercial law practice some of the best people that would have been, practicing litigation, because a few of the people that I have spoken to, it is this, they make this switch, this decision because of the adjournments and the delay in trying to get anything done. I need to ask, do you ever think of going back to display before adjourned?
I don't think so,
Okay.
because I think it's a bit late. When you're a litigator, it's not just about getting up and going to court. There are lots of rules and regulations which you need to abide by. When you go to court, and you need to understand those things. You need to have them, second nature to you, and that's part of what makes an excellent litigator as well. So, beyond me having to talk about the law, go to court and, advocacy and all of that, I would also have to learn, the court rules and things. So I don't, anything that's going to seem like an exam, I don't want to go into.
That's for you anymore.
So, I've made the choice. I'm supremely happy with the choice. And, this is the routes that I've chosen, and I think I will stay this way.
What would you say to young lawyers who are, at the cusp of making a decision? Should they just rely on what they feel, better prepared for, or what would you tell them to do?
Well, I would say to them, if you have the opportunity, practice, do the two. Do the two. If you get to a place where you want to make a decision to go either, just with litigation or solicitor's practice, commercial practice, you can do so. But not having had the opportunity to practice either one, not having had the opportunity to practice litigation, I would think that there would be something missing. Because, when you even just look at our practice here, we still wear the wig and gown, and all of that. Your parents do want to see you wear the wig and gown and go to court, and announce.
You're not a lawyer yet until you don the wig and
yeah,
gown. Yes.
So I think that it's helpful, even in the way that you think as a lawyer. It is helpful for you to have some practice as a litigator.
Did you ever have gender issues? And of course, keeping at home, having it all, because women have argued that you can have it all.
Yeah.
Career, keep your home and everything. How have you dealt with that?
Where I work, is a fantastic place. We never have to do things, on the basis of, a man, a woman, because, it's all on merit. So if it's a woman who merits it, all well and good. And I believe that, that was the situation with me. I don't think that I had to work, twice as hard as the men in the office. I just needed to work hard. Because
yours is an exceptional case for the number of women that I've spoken to.
Okay.
At every point I hear, I've had to work twice as hard, and especially in. I would have thought, for instance, that Nigeria would not be that kind of place, but there are places where women doing the same job with men earn less pay than men. But I'm happy to hear for a change that you just needed to do the good work like everybody else.
Yes. I had some, male colleagues who would say to me, "Oh, Kemi, you're still here. If you were my wife, this and that." I said, "Well, I'm not your wife."
Thank goodness.
Exactly. And sort of dealing with the office work, balancing it with home, whether you can have it all. I'm one of those who would say, I believe that you can have it all. And when you look at the home front, I guess it depends on what your home setting is. It depends on who your partner is. And I'm just absolutely blessed, to have the best person ever for me. So it was never an issue that I had to work so hard, but I was always so encouraging right from the very beginning. And I tell you a story. When I finished in law school call to the bar was in December then, and I was going to get married in May of the following year. So I think this was about January or so, and I went to his office, and I was saying something about trying to make a decision on where to work, and that I was thinking maybe I should go and work in a bank, or a company. So that the pay can be more, and I will be able to contribute, something substantial. And he asked me, what do I really want to do? I said, well, I really want to practice because with my first degree, I could have done that, just finished my first degree, and go into a bank, or something.
Just to make money.
Yeah, exactly. But going back to school for my second degree, law, that's what I've always wanted to do. I'd really love to practice. Then he said, so go and do that, and we'll survive on his money.
Whatever comes in. Good man.
Yeah,
this is, if we are arranging, this is where I'll ring the bell.
Yes. So, I mean, even with some of the women who've worked in our office, some of them have said, they've had issues at home. Their husband wanting them to be at home, when they get home, and trying to balance your work life with the home. You have to be really delicate about it. So if you're not getting the necessary support from home, it could be difficult.
Even on a personal note, I sometimes I wonder where I would be if I didn't have a partner who was so very encouraging, just like your partner is. How long have you been in your law firm? From when you was ACAS?
Okay, so I joined the law firm in 1992. The law firm started in 1991, actually. It was the two founders were Shola Adekwetu and Afolabi Caxton Martins. So the law firm started in April of 1991. And I joined them in July of 1992. So I joined green. I joined as an associate. I didn't even know how to incorporate a company. And when I would speak, clearly I wasn't speaking like this. I was speaking like a little girl, as one of them said to me when we went to a meeting one day. And at the time it was called Adekwetu and Caxton Martins, with just the two. And then Funke Agbo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. She joined in 1993, but she joined as a partner, and I became a partner in 2000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so it became Adekwetu and Caxton Martins and Agbo in 1993 when Funke Agbo joined, and it became Adekwetu and Caxton Martins, Agbo and Shego in 2004. And so we were ACA and then, ACAS-Law. And in April 2021, we combined with Dentons, the international law firm. And while our legal name remains the same, Adekwetu and Caxton Martins, Agbo and Shego, we rebranded to Dentons ACAS-Law. Yeah. So for us, we thought, it would be an important step to do. We think it is an extremely audacious step to have taken.
Yes.
Yeah, and it did take us some time, of course, to get to that point where we said, yes, let's do it. Because I think that, traditionally, Nigerians, we are a very proud people. And it took us sort of understanding exactly what the combination would mean, because it was important for us to remain a truly indigenous firm. So our ownership remains the same, owned, controlled by Nigerians, our operations, our financial affairs, Nigerian, as it was before. But we thought with a combination, it would mean that we would achieve our objective of being, bigger than who we are in Lagos here in Nigeria, or in Nigeria as a Nigerian firm. We already have the reputation of being a leading commercial firm, perhaps the leading oil and gas firm in Nigeria. But we thought that we could also have the global reach while remaining truly indigenous, because it would mean that, I mean, immediately now we are in 82 countries in over 200 cities.
That's the reach. That's the reach it gives you. Yes.
Exactly.
So do you think this is the best way to go for inbound legal services with globalization, and of course after EFCFTA? It's such a mouthful.
Yeah, I think that it helps. I think that it helps because beyond just the inbound into Nigeria, there's also the global reputation. So a reputation that we already had, but it's further extended and gives us enormous reach. So beyond the inbound, I'm also able to refer, work to several offices all over the place. Yes, exactly. So, I would go to conferences before, and, I'm talking to somebody from Spain, something, and I'm thinking, look, he doesn't want to do business in Nigeria. He wants to do business in Portugal, something. So I'm looking for how to, move away to somebody else who wants to do business in Nigeria. But, now we're truly international.
Do you think, do you foresee more of these partnerships as the way to go for other Nigerian law firms?
I think that, what we have is first mover advantage.
Yeah.
I will acknowledge, of course, that Oghogho Oyebode, they have an affiliation with DLA Piper, but different from ours, because we've gone over and beyond. Yes, exactly. Ensuring that we also have the international name as well, while also retaining our name, which we remain truly proud of.
I think it's the way to go. I was speaking with the NBA president yesterday, and he was saying that we're not ready, that we're punching definitely below our capacity, and that we will be chewed for breakfast if if we are to let open the doors for for legal services to come in without some form of control. So this for me does make it a lot easier.
Yes, and I guess it depends on the angle from which one is looking at it. And I guess the NBA president would have been talking about a situation where the international law firms come in, and the expatriate lawyers themselves are also practicing here. So that's the sort of thing that even if you're going to allow at some point, you have to do it really gradually. But you also have to make sure that your local market is up to scratch. You don't want a situation where foreign lawyers come in and there's absolutely no work again for us, for Nigerian lawyers. And that's why it's important that there is focus on the continuous training of our lawyers, and ensuring, of course, that everybody's up to scratch to be able to provide the legal services at the standards that are required by our organizations in Nigeria, because Nigeria is a very sophisticated market.
Yes. I don't think legally we have met the strides that the banking sector, for instance, we're able to make the turn quite early. But this is beginning to happen, so it's good.
Yes, and if I was to compare the Nigerian legal market with other places in Africa, perhaps apart from South Africa, it is a very competitive market. So in a lot of other places, and of course I am ignorant about some of the things happening in some other countries. Maybe you can count the law firms on one hand, or so, but not in Nigeria. There's a lot of sophistication. You have lots of people who've schooled outside the country, who come back here, set up firms and things. So a lot of people understand the requisites of law practice and what clients require. And I think, even our law schools in Nigeria, I mean, I read law in Nigeria, and we did an excellent job. I don't know if the standards, are the same today, but,
Well, I graduated in 2005. The standards I met in law school, at the law school and in Unilife, is still very good.
Okay, so that's excellent.
Yes. So how is the law at the level that you're practicing?
There are lots of foreigners in that area of business. I'm not talking about the lawyers now. I'm talking about the businesses themselves, but there are also lots of Nigerian organizations as well. And from when I started practice till to today, the growth of Nigerian companies has been phenomenal. Beyond companies just wanting to do the one-man business thing and be able to feed themselves and their families, we're seeing the Nigerian companies really grow to become international. So I think it's not just a question of wanting to serve the foreign markets or the foreign companies who are doing business here in Nigeria, but it's also the Nigerian companies in any area of endeavor, including the oil and gas industry. And maybe there was a time that you'd think the Nigerian companies won't pay as much as the foreign companies, but the Nigerian companies are doing their bit. So I would go after a foreign company to want to bring, a Nigerian company as well, to want to bring them into the firm to do business with them as well. And we also work with a number of startups because we believe in growing with companies as well. So that's part of our bits as well with companies.
Tell me about being an expert witness. Is it calling for legal opinion, for your best legal opinion? Is that what it is? Maybe you want to take us through one or two of the most interesting ones that you've been outside Nigeria.
Okay, so an expert witness really is called to provide an expert opinion on a subject area of law, and there could be different aspects under it in a complex litigation, usually high value complex litigation matter. And I think the most interesting, which you've asked, would be acting as an expert witness engaged by E&I in the matter between, it was the public prosecutor of Milan,
yes,
which called it against E&I, and there were a number of other companies who joined, including the federal government of Nigeria. And it's a much publicized case because it has to do with OPL 245, which was an asset that was initially awarded to Malibu, which is a company I think Tite was involved in, and that was in 1998. So there was a lot of to and fro, the withdrawal of the assets, being re-awarded to Shell, being withdrawn, being re-awarded to Malibu, and then with the farm out, was it withdrawn and then being re-awarded to Shell and E&I. So that was particularly interesting because there was a lot of reliance being placed on the evidence that I was going to give, which had to do with the Nigerian oil and gas industry, the award of concessions, the basis upon which they can be revoked, the legitimacy of the awards through the different stages up until 2011 when it was awarded to E&I and Shell. So, and very important in the Italian market as well. So I found it very interesting. What was important for me was to be honest, because it was my expert opinion that was required. Even though I was engaged by one party, I wasn't going to sit there just to say things that were in favor of E&I. I was there in my capacity as an expert, and I believe I was grilled for about 6 hours.
Wow.
Yes. So, and I began to understand why people would, when being interviewed, at some point, just say anything.
Just to be able to get away, like, you know what, I've had enough.
Yeah. But, I just thought, through the period, I'm just going to be calm, answer, the questions. I wasn't going to allow, anybody questioning me to get me all riled up. And I think I, went through it the way I needed to as a professional.
Interesting. How often do you find yourself in positions like this?
Okay, I think through my career I've had to do it about maybe about six or seven times. The first was I think for Total. That was
another 6 hours, or
it wasn't as long as 6 hours. I think this one that I just spoke about, that was the longest, the most grueling, and at the same time the most interesting. Yeah.
Tell me about the philosophy of Dentons ACAS-Law.
Okay. First of all, I guess our vision always is to be the leading law firm in Nigeria. And combining with Dentons, the largest law firm in the world, it's not just about being big. So it's about moving from largest to leading. We also are very client-centric. It's not just about, doing anything and giving anything to the client. It's about understanding the client's business. And if you understand the client's business, then it means that we can serve the clients best. And it means that the client is getting value for its money. As a firm, we have 3 core values. We call it ICE.
Oh.
Integrity, creativity, and excellence. So integrity is extremely important for us, and I think, must be the bedrock of any, of everything, of any organization, particularly a law firm. Otherwise, if you're not acting with integrity,
nobody will knock on the door.
Yes, exactly. And I align with the words of Deepak Parekh, and I always say this. He's the chairman of India's leading housing finance company, and he said, the softest pillow to lay your head on at night is a clear conscience.
Oh, that's so profound.
Yeah, so profound. And it doesn't matter what. If you have this niggling feeling within you that something is not right, then it's not right.
You won't find sleep.
Exactly. So it profits a man nothing to sell his soul and gain the whole world, using those words. So at all times you must think about accountability, honesty, integrity. They're all key. You don't switch on and switch off. You stick to it. So that's very important for us, and we try to make sure that all of us in the firm, all of the lawyers as well, that they imbibe all of our core values. Then we go to creativity. We're all lawyers, to all intents and purposes, doing the same thing, advising our clients. But we have to be creative about the way that we do things as well. It's about finding resolutions for our clients, but always doing it within the confines of the law. And it's about being excellent in whatever you're doing. So some will say, oh, but all the information is in there, in the opinion, or something. I say, yes, but it's not. You need to put it across excellently. Your presentation, your paragraphs, dotting your I's, and crossing your T's, they're also important. you know, when you apply it to work, you apply it to every aspect of your life.
Perhaps, but outside of what Deepak said, my takeaway is the ice,
Yes.
treatment. How
Yes.
you're a member of a lot of boards, you know. How do you navigate your way through the convoluted board meetings and all that? How many hours do you have to spend doing that aspect of your life?
Okay, so some of the boards on which I sit are not as demanding as others.
Okay.
So you know, with a bank, that is very demanding. So I'm able to find the time to do it. I'm able to find the time to do it, and I think that you know, when you start off, as I started off in practice, your focus is on getting your experience and being an expert of what it is that you're doing. So I was facing my lane. I was doing my own thing, doing my, you know, oil and gas. I wasn't looking for board positions, and you know, because people ask me that question, how do you do it? How do you get to sit on boards? And you know, I honestly wasn't looking to sit on boards, and it wasn't something that people were talking about at the time, or you know, women in the C-suites, women sitting on boards and things like that. But I found that, you know, people would, you know, come to me and, you know, and ask me, sometimes in the line of work, and sometimes, you know, based on recommendations and things like that. So when people ask me, I would say to them, what you need to do is stay in your lane and focus and specialize. And you know, it's not about going to places and saying, oh, I want to be on your board, I want to be on your board. And you know, you build a reputation. So beyond the work that you do, it's about who you are and how you live your life. You know, somebody mentions your name. What does your name bring to mind?
Ice.
Exactly.
You talked about staying in your lane. You know, how did you find the lane? How does one become an expert in oil and gas as a lawyer?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. I guess, you know, I mentioned that when I started, so I was doing some litigation. So I was doing litigation, I was also doing commercial practice. And this was general commercial practice. I was also doing intellectual property. I was pretty much doing, you know, everything that was there. I think as a firm, we started doing oil and gas work sometime in about 94, 95. And we started off, you know, writing articles and things. And we had a few clients. And the person who was leading it at the time, one of my partners, Kekere-Ekun, and I was doing a bit of it, and I think I found it, you know, the most challenging thing I was doing at the time. And for some reason, you know, apart from his encouragement, for some reason, I also thought, I think I'd like to do this. I'd like to get, you know, to the bottom of this. It's, you know, it's a bit difficult. It seemed at the time, but I guess everything new does seem difficult. And I don't know if it was a function of saying I was going to specialize at that point in time, but that I wanted to understand it. And I also wanted to be able to be in a position to market our services in that area. So I think it also took a natural course as well, and we were doing, you know, all sorts of little things, and then we were doing some big things as well, because we're getting some big named clients in that area as well, which was, you know, very interesting for me. And then I'd go to oil and gas conferences as well. You know, I found them very interesting, very stimulating. And then I started speaking at conferences, and I found that, you know, I was doing very well in that area, not just in terms of my understanding of the subjects, the different things that I had to do, but, you know, just the opportunity to be able to talk to clients in those in that area as well, and bringing clients who wanted to do things in Nigeria in the oil and gas sector. And I think what I also found was that there was nothing, there were absolutely no issues arising from the fact that, I hadn't done a master's in oil and gas law or anything, and it didn't even occur to me to, think of having to go and do a master's in oil and gas law. And as a matter of fact...
Would that have helped though?
I don't know if it would have helped because...
knowing what you know now.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't do a master's in anything. I mean, I have my first degree in history, and then I went to read law, and for me that was enough of school. And maybe if somebody had said, oh, you need to do a master's in oil and gas law, I may have thought about it, but since nobody said that, I was able to, I found my way without, going through, the academic route of doing a master's in oil and gas law. I know that many people, go off and do a master's in oil and gas law. Maybe it gives them, a head start, gives them some information before going into the practice of it. But, there's absolutely nothing like practice.
I agree. I mean, hands-on and
indeed.
Yes. I see you do some pro bono businesses as well. For
yes.
foundations.
Yes, I think it's important for us, as a law firm, to have some pro bono matters, and we consider some of the matters that we will take on as a firm. Everything can't be about getting money from every client.
Do they all have to be foundations though?
No, they don't. They don't all have to be foundations. They don't all have to be foundations. They're different areas in which we've done some pro bono business, and sometimes it could even come down to some, family matters as well.
How's you are? Is it the environment in the MBA?
Energy, environment, yes, and natural resources committee. Yes, so I did chair that committee. I think it was almost about 4 years or so, but I did have to step down last year because it was supposed to be a 2-year term. I don't know who chairman is, but my time is up. Yeah.
But how was that? How impactful was that for members? Did that draw people to want to look at that area of law because you were heading there?
Well, maybe some of the younger ones, because I think maybe the first 2 years was sort of before the COVID period, so we did have some in-person engagements. I think in the last 2 years, and then again there was a bit of uncertainty about my tenure. One of the things that we did was actually with George Etomi and his firm. They were the ones who actually initiated the idea of us having or convening a gathering of some of the lawyers to talk about the petroleum industry bill as it was at the time, and put together quite a bit of information to be sent to the National Assembly based on our views on the draft at the time. And now we have it as an act, almost how many years later, but at least it's there, because it not being there had brought a lot of uncertainty to the oil and gas industry and pretty much stalled operations in the industry. And I think a good thing, not perfect.
At least it's there.
Yes, but to bring back some certainty to the sector, hopefully.
I know we talked about your being an expert witness. Can we talk about some of the groundbreaking transactions that you've done in oil and gas?
I guess Nigeria's first gas to liquids project. That's the Escravos gas to liquids project. So that's a Chevron NNPC project using the Fischer-Tropsch technology owned by Sasol. So I was my firm, and I was lead counsel acting for Sasol in the transaction. So we worked on it right from the conceptual stages of the transaction right down to its conclusion, and right now it's being implemented. So our first gas liquids project in the country, and I believe remains the only one. So we have, I believe, 2 trains running. It's a matter of national pride for us as a country, and I think a matter of pride for us as a firm as well, having worked in that. I would also mention the AES Independent Power Project. That was actually used to be the Enron Power Project, and Enron, they divested and AES took it over. So we worked with AES right from the beginning of that.
I've been hearing about the Enron thing.
Yeah.
For the longest time.
Yeah.
I thought it was a Lagos State.
Yes, it did involve Lagos State because it was done in Lagos State. So AES, so that was our first independent power project in the country. So that was great for us as well. And that also dovetailed into the first IPP refinancing. So that was a great transaction as well. And then, yes, there have been a number of farm out transactions, but I was involved in, this was a multi-party transaction. So rare for that time, I think that must have been about 2004. And that had to do with, it was the Ajay field, the Inca Falawiya field, and they were farming out part of their concession to about 6 parties at the same time. And I was representing, was it Centralium Nigeria, and then they were sort of the lead for the other international companies who were there. So I was also providing advice to all of them. Now I'm trying to remember, some of these transactions.
Well, Sasol is as big as the camp. So.
Yes.
It was groundbreaking as a camp.
Yes. So.
If you had to live your life career all over again, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? I always ask myself that question, and I keep on coming up with, I'll do it the same way. I'll do it the same way. Sometimes I think, would I have wanted to, have read law first? And then I say, oh no, I wouldn't have met all the friends that I met and, had that party time that I had and all of that. I think I'll do it exactly the same way, with the opportunity to, just do a little bit of litigation and go into solicitor's practice. I'm happy with the way my life has turned out and the way that I've lived my life. I'm very grateful to God. So I wouldn't change anything. I've thought hard about that question. I don't have any regrets.
You did it your way, and you do it your way all the time.
Indeed.
In recruiting people in your firm.
Yes.
Do you think that our education, compared to when do you think the standards are really bad? And if so, how do you manage to get them up to par when they come in so green?
Okay.
You said you went in green with yourself, but at the
yes.
at your time
yes.
and now, the ones that come in green, how do they measure it?
Okay. I do think that generally the educational standards are different comparative to when I was in school. However, you will still find some good lawyers. So we have some great young lawyers. We have some great young lawyers that you can tell. And I'm not talking about those who schooled abroad. I'm talking about those who've sort of gone through the system here in Nigeria as well. So you still have some great ones, but there are few of them. There are few of them. There are loads of things that you have to go through, right from the way that they write to the way that they speak. And you know, I try not to, because, you know, accents and things, they're not a measure of intelligence.
No.
So that's not what I'm talking about. You know, I'm just talking about, you know, the intellect and how, you know, all of that is used. I think that, you know, for anybody that we take in, it behoves us really to make sure that we bring them up to scratch, beyond the ones who are, you know, naturally intelligent, who are able to think outside of the box. But you need to get the others to that stage where they're able to think outside of the box, where they're able to write well. You know, lawyers could, a lot of lawyers are verbose in the language and the way that they write and things like that. It doesn't have to be like that.
Legalese.
So, you know, you need to get them to calm down. You need to get them to calm down. We don't need to be confrontational in the way that we write. There's always a way in which we can express ourselves. And that's what we need to teach the younger ones, you know, beyond values and things like that. It's also about teaching them to be that well-rounded lawyer. So be excellent in your work, you know, specialize, but you need those soft skills as well. You also need to be able to market, you know, so we're talking about rainmakers and grinders. You need to be a bit of both. You need to be able to go out to talk to people. You need to be able to win business. The way I like to say it is, you know, you're in an organization, your partners, you need to feed each other. So you need to bring in work, develop those soft skills, understand what it is that a client wants, how to deal with a client, how to talk to a client, how to make sure you understand the client's business, how to make sure you bring in value to the client's business. So that's not just the business of the partners of management, it's everybody. You need to learn those skills. So I say I didn't know those things day one. I had to learn them as well.
What's the numbers now over the century mark? How many lawyers do you have?
Oh, no, not up to the century mark. I think we're about 56. I think we're about 56 lawyers. I think we're 10.
We're almost there now. Just relating to the quality of people that come. So what's your vision for the Nigerian legal profession? You know, from where you stand, and you know, from the time you graduated and now being an employer of labor, seeing all of this. What's your vision for it?
Okay. I guess, you know, my vision for the Nigerian legal profession really is for our lawyers to be able to stand up anywhere in the world and be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the best lawyers in the world internationally. And to be able to do that, you know, it means looking back within our own legal sector here, the profession here, the Nigerian law school here. What is being offered? Are we teaching our lawyers at the law school the things of yesterday, or are we preparing them for the future? That's what we must be doing. We must be preparing them for the future. So, you know, we talk about the legal sector, we talk about globalization, we talk about technology. How are we bringing information relating to technology into the Nigerian law school for people to understand there and then what they are coming into? So I would like to see a situation where we're not having, you know, lawyers who people just call charge and bail lawyers, you know, and things like that, who are not able to make ends meet. I would like to see most lawyers very successful. And I remember when I was going back to read law, a friend said to me, and he said it in Yoruba, but he said, you're going to be selling boiler rings at the end of the day. But what he meant was that, I was, you know, just going to go into business, because he didn't perhaps see that lawyers, you know, could have fulfilled lives. Yeah. So I think that most lawyers can live fulfilled lives if, you know, they have a passion for the business. And as you mentioned, you know, there's so many areas that lawyers can go into these days. So I'd like to see a lot of them successful, following their passion. I think that your passion, if you are passionate about something, it will make a way for you. So I don't want people talking about the legal sector the way some may look down on the legal sector in any way at all. I know maybe some in other countries may look down on the legal sector in African countries or in Nigeria, but I don't think that our legal profession or our legal sector in Nigeria is anything to look down on at all. I think it's extremely competitive, but I think that there should be a lot more of us who are finding fulfillment and satisfaction within the legal profession.
What do you think about the separation of lawyers and solicitors? Do you like our system, the combined, or we should, in looking at ours, we should think of the separation?
No, there's no need to separate it. So I know you asked me if I wanted to go back to court. No, but I have the liberty to. So I still have my wig and gown.
Just knowing that you
exactly.
can.
Yes. So I'm happy that it's a fused profession. I'm very happy that it's a fused profession, and I think it should stay that way.
Okay. There are people like you who practice commercial law and are very successful. And do you think that the Privileges Committee should find a way of rewarding people who do commercial law, or do you also subscribe to or what do you think about people who say the commercial, the financial reward is enough for commercial lawyers, so they don't need to be SANS or anything like that?
First of all, SANS also make a lot of money. So I don't know who is suggesting that SANS
I've heard the argument.
Yeah. I don't think that I've given so much thought to, lawyers engaged in solicitors practice, engaged in commercial practice, also being rewarded the way senior advocates of Nigeria are. I remember having the conversation maybe about 15 years ago with somebody, and yes, I was saying, oh yes, it would be a good idea. There's so much that lawyers engaged in commercial practice have to put into their work. It's a lot of hard work. Sometimes people say, oh, solicitors just look at precedents, and things like that. That is so not true. That's not what the law is just about. Of course, there are things that we deal with, and we just look at precedents, but it's not just about that. But whether or not that is done, I am just so happy and with where I am that I don't need to make it a fight. You understand? I don't need to make it a fight at all. If it's something that I have to have a serious discussion about, then I would say, why not? The senior advocates of Nigeria, their advocacy through the years being acknowledged and rewarded. Solicitors put in a lot of work into what they do, into becoming acknowledged nationally, internationally as well. So nobody's working harder than the other.
It's been very illuminating. I'm sure that our viewers will enjoy every minute of hearing you talk about commercial law practice in Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
And there you have it. We have been talking to our bigwig for today, Felicia Kemi Segun. I'm sure you have found it very, very inspiring. Her commitment and her dedication is worthy of all the accolades that she's had. Until next time when I bring you another bigwig, my name is Richard Mofe Damijo. And
I'm a bigwig. Yeah. Let me they run things up. Yeah. We're making great moves, big moves. Yeah. I'm a lawyer. I love the practice. So my daily moves, nothing but magic. I'm a lawyer, but I don't even go to court.